Good evening, good afternoon. Hi, I'm Carla, the Cosmic Crone, and I am here with you on this Sunday afternoon. Um, my Facebook is blinking, so excuse me. I'm getting used to this new thing. We are here to celebrate and explore what's going on during Venus retrograde in Capricorn conjunct Pluto. That is a lot that's happening right now. I was thinking back to a year ago when at the winter solstice we had the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in the 0 degree, the very first degree of Aquarius. And we did a big ritual and ceremony at my house here. And, you know, I'm doing it later this year in the new year for Venus retrograde. But this Venus retrograde conjunct Pluto is as big an event. It is like the keynote of it's setting the complete tone for 2022. And that's why it's important, and that's why I wanted to go deep into not the astrology so much as the meaning, because the astrology stands on its own. So I'm used to doing this on my phone. I cannot see comments or anything. So, if you're here, say hello. However, I don't know how to get to where I can see the comments. It's kind of weird. Okay, there. Looks like I can see comments there if I go and look. All right. I just found my way around here. So, okay, as you join, I see that 7 people have popped on, and that's wonderful. And do feel free to go into comments and say hello and let me know that you're here and who you are. And if you've got any questions or thoughts about Venus retrograde in Capricorn, feel free to ask, and I will check the comments before I finish and see if I have anything to offer you. So the number one thing, I will reintroduce myself. I am Carla Sanders, the Cosmic Crone, and I am the founder of the School of Womb Wisdom and Divine Feminine Astrology. And I have been following Venus retrograde since 2013. That was the last time Venus was retrograde in Capricorn, and at that time I interviewed shamanic astrologer Kaylin Castell, who clued me in that Venus in Capricorn is the grandmother iteration of Venus. She is the crone. Venus, as she travels through the horoscope, takes on the keynote of each sign she travels through, and especially when she goes retrograde in Capricorn, she is activating crone energy. She almost has more in common with Cailleach or Hecate than she does Aphrodite or Isis or some of the goddesses. Well, I'm thinking of that painting by Botticelli, Venus on the Half Shell. She's very much Venus who has integrated all of her divine feminine power. And she's also the Venus who is the oldest aspect of Venus. Venus, like most of the goddesses, harks back to the Great Mother. And when she's in Capricorn, she is connecting to her deep roots in our psyche, in our souls. And she still stands for sexuality, sensuality, romance, attraction, love, the goddess of love, the mother of Eros. beauty, abundance, wealth, and values. She's has a lot in common with the second house in astrology. Our values and our ready cash, how we feel about ourselves, what we think of ourselves, and how we express, in an embodied way. So that's what Venus means. And when she's in Capricorn, she has integrated all of that. She is rock deep. So think of that. Feel the solidity of Venus. Feel the groundedness of Venus. Feel Venus. I was thinking of who does she remind me of, and I got the idea of Meryl Streep, somebody who has gravitas in our community, and yet who is still attractive, who captures our imagination as an actress, who can still step into any role. She could probably play a maiden if she wanted to. She's still that good. So that's who Venus is in Capricorn. The astrology of the moment is Venus is conjunct Pluto, and that adds yet another dimension. And I'm going to go through all of these one at a time. And at the moment that Venus turned retrograde, which happened where I live this morning at 5:36 a.m., Venus and the demon star Algol, the Lilith star, were at the exact trine, 2629. Venus is at 2629 Capricorn, and Algol is at 2629 Taurus. And that is a trine, and we call that a flow. It means they are in communication. The energies of these two are mutually supportive and flowing together. And this is universal because everybody, Algol is a fixed star. She is the eye of Medusa. She stands for Lilith. She stands for the demonized goddess. She stands for the universal feminine that has been rejected and banished from the hearts and souls of human beings since patriarchy. And we see her as a dark goddess. She shows up wrathful, fearsome. We have been taught actively to fear her and reject her. And so when we see her, all of our fears come up about what she means, what she will do. When in reality, she is simply the goddess. And so the dark goddess and Venus in Capricorn are lending their energy to one another and further emphasizing Venus as the crone in her dark element here in Capricorn, and then merged with Pluto. She just had an exact conjunction to Pluto on her way forward, and over the next few days she's going to be conjuncting Pluto again and will conjunct Pluto a third time as she makes her direct journey outside. And that, when Venus goes direct is when things get really interesting. But first, let's talk about retrograde. So that's the energy I want you to really carry with you. Hold that demonized goddess, dark goddess energy, and recognize Venus as an avatar of the dark goddess. We know her most often as the Queen of Heaven. She has been the evening star for 8 months. And when she completes this retrograde, she will return as the morning star, the bright and shining one, the brightest planet in our sky. So beautiful. We love her so much. And she loves us back. And yet here she is in her dark form. So, what does it mean? When Venus picks up the energy of Pluto and turns retrograde, let's talk about what the ancients believed or how they saw Venus retrograde. Venus turns retrograde once every 18 months. And she does this, it's an apparent retrograde because of how things look from our perspective on Earth. Obviously, Venus is not turning backwards. But as you map her through this, her movements through the sky, the dome of the sky, she appears to move backwards. And she only does this on what we call her interior conjunction, when she's passing between the Earth and the Sun. And she had a big moment back in 2008 and 2012 because those were the years of the Venus transit where she was literally eclipsing the Sun. The little spot of Venus moved across the Sun's disk. And that was an incredibly potent time. That was the emergence of the solar feminine. And it had a lot to do with, this dark goddess emergence that's been coming and coming and coming from 2013 onward, but especially in the last 3 years. The last Venus cycle, Venus retrograde, was in Gemini, and she turned retrograde conjunct Vesta and went all the way back and made multiple conjunctions with Algol, who figures today. So she's picked up that Algol energy then, and now she's picking it up and merging it with Pluto. Now, the ancient Sumerians associated Venus with the goddess Inanna, which is why you'll hear me call her the Queen of Heaven. Inanna was the Queen of Heaven. And Inanna's great myth is her descent into the underworld. She was the younger sister of Ereshkigal, the goddess of the underworld. And Inanna got the news that Ereshkigal's husband, the king of the underworld, had died, and Inanna wanted to go and pay respects. That's the simplified version of it. She was called or desired to make a visit to the underworld to see her sister, ostensibly to comfort her. Some versions of the myth were like, we're going to take over the underworld too. We want both heaven and the depths. But that doesn't really enter into our story, because the mythic power of Inanna is in the descent. So when Venus would turn retrograde and disappear into the sun's light, the Sumerians took that to represent Inanna's descent to the underworld. And Inanna descended. It wasn't like just hitting a button and taking the elevator down. She had to go through 8 gates. Some years 7, some years 8. It kind of depends on the exact, nothing is quite round in our universe. But she goes down 8 gates. And at each gate, she has to pass the guardians. And the guardians require her, instructed by Ereshkigal, to leave some of her power behind. And so Inanna shows up for the descent in all of her goddess and queenly regalia. And at each gate, she must voluntarily surrender some of her power and identity as the Queen of Heaven. And then once she arrives in the underworld, there's only one way for her to enter. And that is naked and dead. that which is living may not enter the underworld. And Inanna knew that going in. She knew she was descending to death. She would have to take on death. And so she dies in the presence of her sister, and Ereshkigal hangs her body on a meat hook to rot. And Inanna stays there for 3 days. What story does that remind you of? This descent into death, dying for 3 days and then returning, is a very ancient motif in our mythic imagination, our collective mythic imagination. So Inanna, i.e. Venus, is in the underworld, dead, dying, rotting, dissolving, becoming nothing. Now Inanna prepared for this, and so she instructed her assistant to make sure somebody came and got her. And that's what happened. And there were 2 little beings came, and they're kind of interesting. They're sexless beings, which I think means there's something not quite alive about them, and therefore they can come and go from the world of the dead. So they come and they bargain with Ereshkigal, and their bargain goes like this. Ereshkigal is complaining about her lot. She is jealous and angry and envious. No one likes the Queen of the Dead. She never gets invited to the banquets. Her husband has died. She's stuck here in the dark. And then Inanna comes to take even that away from her. This is the lament of Ereshkigal. And these little beings, sent by the god to bring Inanna back, they commiserate with her. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And she is so moved by the fact that they're commiserating with her. They're agreeing with her. She says, what can I give you? And they say, give us that carcass hanging on the meat hook there. And so she does. And they feed Inanna the bread and water of life. And Inanna begins her ascent. And at each phase, at each gate, she receives back her regalia of power and light and emerges even brighter, even more powerful and potent than she was before. So that is Venus. Venus representing the underworld. When Venus goes retrograde, we tune in to that aspect of ourselves that needs to descend, to release everything we think we know about ourselves, to empty ourselves, to die to what is old, and allow ourselves, allow what is dead to die. And we need this periodically as human beings walking on this earth, spiritual beings having a human experience. We need this. And we tend to fear it. We tend to take it down into the realm of pathology, like it needs a drug, or it's a mental illness, or there's a problem. But in fact, we are all cycling. We cycle. The light and the dark happens daily, monthly, annually. And then with Venus, we have this special ritualized, ceremonial way of making that underworld journey. And this is the year, and now is the time. And this is accentuated, amplified exponentially by Pluto. Pluto is the king of the underworld, the god of the underworld in Greco-Roman mythology. And he and Venus don't have a lot to do with each other in mythology, but here they are. in cahoots right now. They are merging energies. And given that we are in a moment of universal darkness and dissolution, we are in a moment. I don't think that our minds are capable of understanding this moment that we're in. I don't think it's a moment of hope. It is a moment of death and destruction and dissolution. And yet we are still alive. We will keep going. We will keep growing. We will keep birthing. We will keep changing. And yet, it is absolutely essential that we take this moment of descent and dissolution and death seriously and allow it, and then return prepared and strengthened to create something new from these ashes. And yes, this is all metaphorical and symbolic, and in the greater time span of our lives, it is not metaphoric and symbolic. It is happening. And there are people in the world who are living it very deliberately, not deliberately, but they are living it now. It is not a future or a maybe. Where I am and who I am has the privilege of pretending. I could pretend that it's not happening. My life, other than the fact that the winters are not as cold in Maine as they used to be, my life hasn't changed very much. But the world has changed. The world has changed around me, and I am sitting here in the midst of this transforming world, and I must wake up to that. I must allow what needs to die in me to die, so that I can be a part of the rebirthing. What's that going to look like? Well, it is multifaceted. We all have a part to play. Our part is unique and individual, and together it fits like a fabulous tapestry, a beautiful mosaic, and there is darkness involved. There is death. There is fear. There is change. And our minds regard change as death, even when it's something that we really want. We're wired funny that way. So here we have the dark goddess feeding her energy to Pluto and Venus is taking Pluto and saying, "What are you giving me to take into the underworld? I am visiting the queen." And she goes. She has started as of this morning. Well, that all sounds rather grim, doesn't it? I think I want it to sound grim because there is nothing delicate or sweet about this astrology. This is a very serious, deep, dark journey that we are taking. And yes, life goes on around us. But we have to understand that life is going on while we are traveling in the underworld. And when we come back, the energy is going to be profoundly different. So what's happening there? I'm going to speak a little bit. There will be more to say about this step by step. One thing, as I was meditating on this morning, I realized that Venus in the underworld, there are lots of underworld characters. Hecate, she goes back and forth between the underworld and the above world. She does magic at the gates of hell, basically. And she conducted Persephone back and forth when she would make her semi-annual sojourn in and out of the underworld. Persephone herself was initially, we believe, the story I learned as a child was that Persephone was abducted by Hades. He was a bad guy. And she, in her innocence, was taken down to the world of the dead, where she suffered and struggled. And her mother, Demeter, and Ceres, her mother mourned for her to the point that nothing would grow and the people, all life on earth, was threatened with starvation. So Hecate came and said to Demeter, ask the sun, he sees everything. That's Hecate for you. She knows the answer, but she's not going to tell. She just says, here's a path you can take. And then Balbo came and showed, flashed her sacred pussy and made Demeter laugh, and that was a turning point. Demeter's pussy saved the world. Balbo's pussy saved the world. And then meanwhile, you've got Persephone in the underworld with Pluto, and contrary to not liking it there, she likes it there. Her destiny is to be queen of the underworld. She goes from being the maiden picking flowers in the springtime to being the dark goddess embodied. And so she makes this trip back and forth to visit her mother, to receive the blessings of the sunshine, but then she goes back. She is one who goes between the worlds, the light and the dark. So Venus, on her underworld trip, is making, she is activating all of these energies. She is identifying with each of these personages. And what I find incredibly fascinating is I have all of them in Capricorn. I have Hecate, Ceres, Lilith asteroid, and Persephone in Capricorn, and they are all going to be touched during this retrograde. So I have some work to do. This is personal for me. So you can ask yourself, where is Capricorn in my chart? Which house? And what are the other aspects that are going on? What other planets do I have? And I can help you with that. So reach out to me. So here we are making this underworld journey. And what happens on the 29th of January? This is a 40-day journey. When Venus turns to direct at 11:05 Capricorn, she turns direct conjunct Vesta. Her last retrograde, she turned retrograde conjunct Vesta. Here she's turning direct. She is an entire cycle later. She is gathering the energy of the priestess, and she is bringing the priestess along. All the way through the rest of Capricorn, Vesta and Venus travel together throughout the month of February. And what is more, Mars merges with them. Mars catches up to them. So it will be Mars, Venus, that is sacred masculine and feminine, and Vesta, the priestess, the one who goes between the worlds, the one who manages the properties and holdings of the temple, the one who made the altar to the dark goddess. They come back through. They do their ascent together. Venus, this time, is ascending from the underworld in company of Mars, focused, fiery, warrior, masculine energy, and the priestess, the high priestess, who keeps the sacred erotic flame burning inside of each of us. And all three of them make a conjunction to Pluto. And that happens at the new moon in March, the Pisces new moon on March 2nd. And then they will together, they will leave Pluto behind and pass into Aquarius together. And then they begin to separate. So look at the symbolism of this. At the moment, by the time Venus is completing her shadow phase, retraversing the place of her, the territory that she was retrograde, she's in the company of these light beings, Mars and Vesta. And all of them together connect with Pluto again, and they will trine the dark goddess Algol again. So this retrograde is a complete merging of light and dark. This is a vortex, and this can feel like chaos, especially if we are not prepared, if we are not grounded in our own spiritual truth, and if we do not pay close attention. Give ourselves space. If you want to go through business as usual during the next 40 days, or for that matter, 3 months, but especially the next 40 days, don't try it. Carve out time to sit and listen, to know who you are, to listen to the darkness, to look and see what in your life needs to shift, what needs to be let go. I've been noticing a lot of people say, last full moon, this full moon in Gemini, the last full moon of 2021, what are you leaving behind? That's a good place to start. But take a deep breath and settle in. Because this time, if you say you're leaving it, prepare to have it stripped away. And the important thing to remember is that Inanna, in her descent, could not go to the next gate, could not pass through the gate until she surrendered what the guardians asked for. But they did not touch her. They did not take it from her. They just said, give us your crown, give us your earrings, give us your necklace, give us your breastplate, give us your robe, give us all these parts. And she, I don't know what she'd have said, no, I won't. Well, I guess she would have had to go back, or maybe she would have stayed stuck there forever. But the only way she could move forward was to take and hand it over. She remained sovereign even in the dissolution of death. And that's something very important for you to remember as you tap into this energy and allow yourself to go deeper in the relinquishing of that. And it's not even what we identify as that which no longer serves. What's not serving you? Let it go. Well, we can look at all sorts of habits and beliefs and patterns of thought that no longer serve us, relationships or old things, worn out stuff. But these are what we are being asked to evaluate during this retrograde is the things that we hold dear. our security blankets that we don't necessarily know are no longer serving us. We are to evaluate everything and ultimately let go of everything, because on the ascent journey, we get it back new, but only if we let it go during the descent. That's a tough one for us human beings to accept. But that's the way it works. I'm sighing because I'm thinking about how challenged I am to do that. It's not like I'm a master at this by any means, and yet I'm going to offer you a practice, a journaling practice. Get a brand new journal or notebook of any kind, or staple sheets of paper together. You know, don't let anything stand in your way from doing this. Get a brand new pen or pencils, and day one, starting today, what am I willing to relinquish? What am I relinquishing this day? And for 40 days, journal on what you're relinquishing. Empty yourself. Practice emptying. And then on the 40 days, returning. See what it feels like. What will you reclaim? Now that takes a while. We're talking about almost, well, 2.5 months. I think it'll be worth it, because the person that you will be come new moon March 2nd is vastly different. It's kind of interesting that coincides with my birthday. I will be doing this from now until my birthday on March 7th. Yeah, doesn't matter when your birthday is. We are all experiencing Venus retrograde, conjunct Pluto, and trine Algol. And on January 29th, we will begin to experience the ascent, conjunct Mars and Vesta. That's a lot of power. Allow the power. I am complete for now. I said that I would look and see if there have been any comments. Yeah, hello. Hi, Lori. Yeah. Feel free to comment when when you are watching the recording later. And I will check back in and we can have a conversation about this. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be back every full moon and every new moon. And the next 3 moon cycles are going to be connecting with Venus retrograde in a whole new way. So let's see. We push this button to end. Blessed Yuletide, everyone. And whatever you are celebrating at this holy time, the dark time in the north and the light time in the south. Bless you.